Hi everybody, good afternoon. This is Jean here, Jean Truelove from Truelove Quilts for You. That rolls off my tongue a little bit easier than Jean Truelove Quilts for You. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, I am doing a little bit of quilting today. I've made my Carpenter Star quilt. You can see my playlist, how I've made this small little quilt with 10-inch squares and a little bit of background fabric. And I did have a little bit of fabric left over. It's a small quilt, small lap quilt, about 54 by 58 inches. And today, I've chosen, I think I showed you before, I have chosen the backing fabric for this quilt. And it is right here. The video that's to follow is just showing you how I've taken this large print, a large floral print, because the front of my quilt, the top of my quilt, is rather, not stark, but rather plain, whereas I chose the backing of my quilt, this large floral print. Now, when you have large prints, there is the fact that you have to, in most cases, like wallpaper, you have to pattern match the print. Now, I've just taken this off the bolt. My following video is showing you how it's a little bit all over the place because my table is a bit small, how I actually find the pattern match on my fabric here. I have to take this over to my ironing board because there's large creases from the fabric manufacturers, but there's also a seam right here where I did a pretty good job of pattern matching it, and that's what I'm showing you in this video, how I'm doing that. The backing, usually as I tell you, because I repeat myself, I usually would do a larger quilt with a seam down the middle, or if it's a very large quilt, the middle and then two on each side. This one I've chosen to use the majority of the width, which is 42 inches wide or so, and then just add this little bit here on the end, another 20 inches or so, because again, you have to make your backing obviously larger than your quilt top to allow for your batting and your quilting, and so you're not messing about trying to line up your batting to your top of your quilt. I always make mine very generous. Again, that's where wide backings can come into play. I was just looking at, not being sponsored by anybody, I was just looking at Connecting Threads. They have an incredible selection of wide, beautiful backing fabric, 108 inches wide, and then of course you only need the yardage. If you're making a 72-inch quilt, that's 2 yards, you only need like 2 1/4 yards to get it bigger. Cut one thing, baste it, take it over to your machine. No piecing your backs together. I like Connecting Threads. I think I would add that. I think I would add Connecting Threads to my Fiskars, as you know, and my Martelli, and a few other little bits that I really like. Their fabric is buttery soft and very substantial. I like Connecting Threads. Anyway, I did not have any wide backing, so I've just pieced my backing. I really like this bold, lovely print because it almost makes it, well, it does make it reversible. Two very different looks. So that's my lovely Carpenter Star. Again, you can see my playlist. At the very end of this video, I'm just going to be putting up a few pictures of my family. We had a lovely, busy week last week. We were celebrating the memorial of Christ Jesus' death. And so we all went to that, and I think I have pictures of all of the kids and the grandchildren. A couple are missing, but you'll get the picture. We had a lovely, lovely week. We really did. And then we've had some company, so we have been busy. The sun is shining, and finally it's gotten really warm, and it's just so lovely. I don't quite know if I'm going to be showing you how I actually finished this quilt or if I'm going on to another project. I have a few little things up my sleeve. One of them is how I was using my mother's hankies to make a quilt. I won't be doing that, making a quilt, but I will be showing you in an upcoming video how I actually stabilize, interface, and prepare my hankies, which are delicate, to make either a pillow or into a quilt. So that's to come, and I have a few other ideas to come down the road. But anyway, follow along for whatever I'm watching. I really appreciate all your kindness and all your love to the True Loves. All right, I hope you enjoy this video, folks. Love from us. Bye-bye. I've measured my quilt top, and it's 54 inches wide by 58 inches long. Okay, it's just a little bit longer than it is wide. So working with those dimensions, I'm going to be cutting my backing fabric. Now I have a bunch of this fabric, as you can see. I had gotten this years ago, and if I really like a fabric, if I like a fabric, I'll buy 3 yards. If I love a fabric, I'll buy 5 yards, and if I really adore a fabric, I'll buy 7 or 8 yards of fabric. So that way I can have it as backing, I can have it as a border, which I was thinking about this, because when you have a large print, such as this, I would like to cut a border. You could have a border like this entire flower width, okay? So I can see on this design here that I would have, say, 1 strip of flower width and then 2 strips and then 3 whole strips of flower width, and that could just be like a half a strip. But I could see 3 whole wide borders on this fabric here. Now obviously you can have a border with flowers just like that if you wanted, or the ideal would be to have this as a backing, which I'm going to be using as a backing. But because I like to envision, if I did have this as a border, I can have lots. I can have the length of my fabric and get 3 strips out of it. But I'm not going to be doing that today. As you can see, it's coming straight off the bolt. I just have this smaller table here. Let me find the fold of the fabric. And I will be cutting a piece about my length is, my quilt is 58 inches long. I'm going to be cutting this piece here about 65 or 66 inches. I always leave quite a lot of room for my borders on the bottom and on the top. So I'm going to start. This is 30. There's 130. There's 36. That's a yard. Now this is going to be the height of my quilt. So I have this piece, which is obviously long enough, it's tall enough from the back of my quilt. But because it's only, say, 42 inches wide, about 42 inches wide, I need another piece. Now, usually I like to piece my backing down the middle of my quilt. So I have a seam in the middle. Now, because this is such a beautiful, lovely print, and does it have it? No, yeah, it does have a direction. Actually could be either direction, because this flower is going that way, this flower is going that way. So it doesn't really matter. These roses are going up. So say this is the bottom. Now I'm going to be cutting, to match this, the length of this quilt, the backing here. But I'm going to be using this entire 42 inches, and then I'm just going to be adding the seam, which is what, about 2/3 of the way along. But first what I have to do is I have to match my pattern, okay? And this is why I get so much fabric, and then I'm going, because it's like a wallpaper, it's a pattern match, okay? Now, as you can see, remember what I was talking about, this piece is here, has like almost like a half of a pattern. Let me just see. This is, I believe this is upside down. Let me just check. Now this is going to take some messing about to try to find the pattern match. This one, and I'm finding that this selvage here, it matches up pretty good, the pattern, to a great extent. You see the pink flower there, the pink flower? the red over here, that burgundy, and then the burgundy here, and then the leaves match up, and then down here. And then I can see that my flowers are go one pink flower, one pink flower, one pink flower, one pink flower. They sort of joggle, which is exactly what I want. Okay, now I'm going to just eyeball it. This is where I want my fabric, up here, and I'm just going to cut this. And again, it's a little bit of not a waist, yes, but this is the top. So when I go to put this side here, pretty side to pretty side on this seam here, and I will trim that selvage because the selvage is always woven a bit tighter than your actual fabric here. This here also is the selvage. I will clip that. I'm just going to take this off here, like that. And then what I also know is there's starting at the top when I put pretty side to pretty side, like that, like so. My pattern matches. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, my pattern matches pretty good. Now, this is say 42, and I need 54. So again, I'm going to make this piece wider. So 42 to 54, that's 42 to 52 is 10. That's 12 inches. Exactly the width of my quilt, but then I'm going to do it another 8 inches or so. So 12, I'm going to make this piece here, this piece that I'm going to flip over, I'm going to make this a good 20 inches or so. So I'm going to take this over to my machine, and I'm going to be cutting this one the same length as this down here, and I will have extra fabric left over, but then I'm going to sew along this seam here, which are the two selvages, having matched it up. And I'll take you over to my machine. My backing. Now, as you can see, what I was just showing you, that I have the selvage here, and then I have the selvage here. So this, I'm going to be stitching right along that printed white line selvage. It's about 3/4 of an inch, but I'm sure not to get any of the selvage inside. And as you can see, hopefully right there, you can see that my pattern to the great extent is matching up. I think. I hope it is. So I'm just stitching along. It may be a little bit joggled, but I'm okay with that, because for the most part, the average person, not like quilt police or perfectionists, will see that, oh yeah, my backing is one sort of whole piece of fabric, which in fact it is pieced. I have on occasion used wide backing, which is awesome. I mean, you can get some beautiful wide backings. Then all you have to do is cut, you know, if your quilt's 72 inches long by 72 inches wide or something, you can get 108-inch wide backing. So you know you're going to have enough, you're going to have left over, and then you would just cut, say if your quilt is 72 inches long, then you just cut, say, maybe 80 inches off of your backing, lay it down, sandwich it together, because you always want to have more, obviously, of your backing. I always err on the cautious side. I mean, for messing about, you know, with the backing, I don't want to do that. So I'm just laying this on there. I'm not pulling anything, so I won't have a bunchy seam. I'm just laying it on together like this, just holding it, not pulling the bottom or the top. And then I will clip. I probably won't trim. I'll just clip this selvage, because again, the selvage is always woven tighter. Okay, and you have two selvage edges here. So the fact that there's writing there, that doesn't bother me as much because this is a darker fabric. Obviously, if it was a lighter backing, I would trim off that writing, but it won't show through. It won't show through. So just, again, I'm just doing it right outside the white line, the white selvage. I'll give this a really good press. And then I'll be ready to sandwich it and to back it. Pinch and pull. And again, I'll come along with some really nice sharp scissors and I'll just clip. I say like every 2 inches or so, just to relax that selvage, because it will shrink up and pucker at a different rate than your fabric does. So I'll just clip that whole thing right along, and then I'll press this, and I'll probably press it to one side. But you could press it open. I'll see how it goes. I'll probably just press it to one side, and let me just see after I do this. How my matching turned out. I hope it's okay. And if it's not, it's all right. It's busy enough. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, this is okay. My leaves, that's a little bit off. But as I was saying, the pattern goes like up, like it staggers. So I know that this bunch of roses and this bunch of roses is here and there and here and there. So yeah, I'm very pleased with the way that's turned out. I have my green leaves, I have this flower here, and once I press that, and you see it from a distance, it'll look awesome. It'll look like one lovely piece of backing fabric. So there's my backing, how I match. I do get a lot of fabric, and you know, I always err on the cautious side, especially when I'm using a large print, because you are going to have to joggle it. You're going to be, quote, wasting it a little bit, but you're going to have a lovely, bright, patterned backing. So that's how I do it. So then my next video, I'll be pin basting it, cutting my batting, pin basting it, and then I'll be showing you how I'm going to actually quilt my Carpenter Star. So I hope you've enjoyed this, folks. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.